side, go replace it with people who believe. Who do you think are people that you could find right now, people who believe in you and want to support you?
Like-minded people.
Say that again?
Like-minded people.
Like-minded people. Like who?
Someone who's an entrepreneur, someone who want to see you doing good. Also somebody who's willing to feed you positivity and not negativity.
Yeah.
Me personally, that's like I realize my main circle is not the circle for me when it comes to my business.
Yeah.
I always step outside of my circle because that's where I get the most support, the most love, the most everything.
Yep.
Your inner circle is not going because they don't know business.
Yeah.
You know, they just used to 9 to 5 or you know they're they check that they get every 2 weeks and that's okay.
Yep. And you know what that's called? That's called being an employee. And there's nothing wrong with being an employee. It's not a right and wrong thing, like I run a business and you're an employee, like sometimes people put that on a balance thing. It's not a right or wrong thing, that's a preference issue, that's a choice. But I wanna say that if you wanna be the boss, guess what you have to do? Work. Act like the boss before you even work. Because employees can work hard too. But you gotta act like the boss, you gotta believe the boss, you gotta be the boss. So don't think like an employee that is 9 to 5 and I'm getting a paycheck and that's my thing and I'm done. You've got to be the boss, you've got to embody the boss. I'll just tell you, there's 30 people in this room, and the answer I'm thinking about, there's about 30 people in this room. I think all of y'all can be a support to each other. Entrepreneurship seems super lonely because no one gets it. They tell you to go get a real job. How come, you know, oh, it must be nice to be able to work whenever you want. Really? Come on, it must be nice to have to work all the time. I woke up at 3:30 this morning thinking about teaching this class. Like, a lot of people don't wake up at 3:30 in the morning when they're gonna go, like, punch in at 9 and sell coffee. But I gotta worry about it. Did I remember turning on the coffee maker? Are the beans ready to go? Like, you know, is my employee gonna call me at 8:59 and be like, sorry boss, I'm coming in today, oh, pretty sure I got COVID. Right? Come on, no you didn't. Right? Okay. We're gonna talk about, this is all some things we're gonna talk about, so let's dive in. You get a lot of this in your book. Look, there's a ton of new entrepreneurs. I don't even know if the number's a million anymore. I think that's probably actually too low. People start tons of new businesses all the time. That's an encouraging thing. There are lots of people who want to get to work. New jobs primarily are created by small businesses growing into bigger businesses. That's what happens and how we do it. And young people, I love it. That was mentioned, like the older generation that work for 30 years, 9 to 5 type of mentality. However, guess what happens the second there's we're hearing about recessions. What's going to go along with recessions? What's the first thing that's going to happen?
Job loss.
Job loss. Oh, I thought you were going to tell me the CEO was taking a pay cut. Job loss. First thing you look at, what's the easiest way to cut costs? Well, I got to lay off 10% of my workforce. All that. I don't know where the work for 30 years probably didn't even actually work for your parents. That was probably actually the generation before that, like the World War II generation. That was that model. I'm not actually sure, that's probably rosy colored glasses too. Our generation, and I'm 45, just so you know where I'm at, so you know, if you're somewhere within 20 years of me, I'm talking to you. You know, our generation has not seen it to be true. I want you to be, as a company, they're like, I want you to be loyal to the company, because blah, blah, blah. But the second things go bad, ooh, sorry. Hope things work out for you. There's a box, we'll help you pack up and leave. Like, really? After all I just did? So entrepreneurship makes more sense to our generation, because I'm worth it. I've got something I can deliver to the world. People want to hear it. You're worth it. You've got something you can deliver to the world, and people want to hear it, and that's why you're here. So hang on to that. Okay, it's a global revolution. People are starting businesses all over. The internet makes it easier than ever, but for a lot of you, I'm going to say the internet's going to be a distraction. If your focus is local here in the Milwaukee area, then I think we maybe are spending too much time on social media and doing other stuff, where for a caterer, I need to be going to every place that wants to get catering. That's a better use of my time. So sometimes thinking about global, and I'm like, I start thinking about world domination, and you know, I'm gonna get a franchise in all 50 states and 27 countries, and we're gonna do coaching. No, I'm not. I'm Milwaukee's small business coach. I need to be in the community in Milwaukee, getting people to know me and what I do and what I can deliver and why I'm passionate about it and what my purpose is, why I was created and put on this earth. Okay, and you've got to figure that out for you too as you go along. But entrepreneurship isn't stopping. It never did stop. It's just a message for a while. We've got to take the, you know, graduate from school, do the 9 to 5, you know, which by the way, 9's not quite convenient. Think you come in at 7 today? Like, stop. I'm not working for you anymore. I'm working for me. You are the boss. Own being the boss, and remember that. So we can do more. You got more choices. There's more innovation, more technological advances, more change, more opportunities, more possibilities. So I want to know the number one way an entrepreneur gets started. What do you find is out there in the world that says, I need to go do this? Anyone know what you're out there that you see? A problem. My hero. Normally it takes like 10 guesses to get there. It's a problem. A problem needs to be solved. No one does this the way I can do it. I can go out and solve it. People have problems. They want to spend money to solve that problem. You know, one of the things I hear, like, what problem does a restaurant solve? Hunger. It does not. Hunger Task Force solves hunger. I don't go to a restaurant because I'm hungry. I go to my fridge, I can go to the grocery store, I can go to Hunger Task Force. What problem does a restaurant solve? But everyone says hunger, by the way. I always say that first. I don't want to cook, okay, so here it is. My problem is, it's dinner time and I don't want to cook. What else could it solve? Convenience. Okay, I need it quickly and I don't have enough time. What else can it solve?
An experience.
Thank you, an experience. Anyone know what's going on the 14th? Well, the 13th, if you're into Valentine's Day, right? It's giving me an opportunity to celebrate with my wife. That's what a restaurant is now offering me. It's not hunger. I got a can of soup in my fridge. I can eat that anytime. So we got to think beyond, to get to the experience. What are you solving? What experience are you providing? Because that's what I'm out there thinking about. I'm not thinking about, I'm hungry, I need to go to a restaurant. I've already planned to go to a restaurant in advance, and I picked it not because I was hungry, but because I wanted to try something new. I wanted to have an amazing date night. I wanted to experience the ambiance of a different culture if I'm going to like a cultural restaurant. All those things, that's in there. It's not about what's in the box that we're selling. It's about the experience that we're providing. Okay, I love this phrase up here. Entrepreneurs are the heroes. They make the world livable for everyone else. Everything else is in a box. It's pretty plain, it's pretty boring, it's not fun. But entrepreneurs, by definition, they found a problem, they found a gap. We found something that's missing, and now we're gonna fill that space. Okay? You ask questions, we challenge the status quo. You know, we may be known as disruptors. Funny story, one of the people that taught the class before, they were like, sometimes as kids, when at school you were labeled as a disruptor, maybe we talk too much, we don't think the way we're supposed to, we don't give the standard answer. Shoot, as an entrepreneur, that's an asset. I don't want you to give me the standard answer. I want you to figure out, well, how come no one ever does this? Well, I can do that. Here you go. I'm in a business now. I'm gonna go solve this problem in this way. Okay? You know, it's really what the human spirit's all about. We were not meant to be locked in and not have change. We're meant to have experience. We're meant to have emotional connections. We're meant to tell stories. And that's a place where entrepreneurship can absolutely thrive. So, we're going to talk about the word empowering. I'm not sure I'm a big fan of the word empowering, but we're going to talk about that. I agree with Denise on that. And the most democratic and the most freedom-producing phenomenon in the world is entrepreneurship. Yes. You control your own destiny. Okay? There are things in the world you don't control, but you do get to control some pieces here. You are the boss, and you get to empower other people. Someone mentioned to do it because they wanted to help employ other people. I hear that a lot, and that's cool. That now you get to be able to figure out how to make other people's lives a blessing and not a curse. Here's one challenge about empower. Or maybe I want to say how we phrase the word empower. You don't get power because you become an entrepreneur. You get to unleash your power. That's how I want you to think about empower. You don't need power. You have power already. You get to show that power to the world. So here's what you get to do. You get to create your own job. You get to create jobs for other people. You get to own your future. You get to own your wealth. How does anyone define wealth? Let's talk about the word wealth. What does wealth mean to you when you hear that? Time. Freedom. Knowledge.
Experience.
Health. Experience. Thank you.
Discovering your purpose.
Discovering your purpose.
And
Happiness.
Happiness. Did you say it? What'd you say? Passion.
just being happy with your life overall, which includes all of that. And everybody has their own description of freedom, health, or whatever. But for me, wealth is all of that in my own custom definition.
I love it.
Stability.
Stability.
It's a form of peace.
Form of
Peace
peace.
of mind.
Peace of mind. I love it. How come no one said money?
'Cause it's not-
It's not money. I love it.
Money is a tool.
I love this class. Like, I do. Money is a tool. One other piece you didn't mention, but it's said a lot. Your network is your network. Your relationships. I don't know if we're gonna have the slide on brokenness, and if we do, I'll wait for that to get there. But your relationships are where a lot of your power comes from. You are gonna get sales. You're gonna get referrals. You're gonna find employees. You are gonna find connections through the other people you know. Remember, entrepreneurship is a lonely business. No one knows what we're going through, what we're struggling with. We're expected to be like, man, you just opened up a second location. No one else has to know that, like, I don't have any money in the bank, and I'm like running ragged and working 27 hours in a 24-hour day. Everyone else on the outside is like, oh, you're crushing it. I saw you just open a new store. Like, you're probably making a bunch of money. Hey, can you buy me tickets to the Bucks game next week? Right? They do. They do. That's what makes it lonely. That's why you gotta have a connection. You gotta meet other entrepreneurs. You gotta connect with people in your industry, your field. I would argue that the number one thing that keeps businesses back from growing is not making new connections.
Yeah.
Find ways to constantly make new connections. It's what differentiates the businesses that are successful, and you're like, man, how did they get so big so fast? No, they got the same thing. We're perceiving probably an incorrect image of where they're actually at, but that's okay. But chances are it was because they got out there, they connected. Is Ruben coming today?
He is.
So Ruben, just ask him on a story. His acceleration towards meeting people started with, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna tell my story to as many people as possible. I was blessed to be one of the earlier people to meet Ruben when he came out. He stopped by BizStarts, and when I heard his story, and he had, here's the things I'm gonna do to start my business, like, stop. Take your story, go out and tell it to everyone who will listen. Go to Rotary clubs, go to Chambers of Commerce, go to, anyone, top people on the street, whoever will hear your story, because your story is so powerful and so amazing. Yes.
Will the person that prepared the food today, will he be telling his story?
I'm not sure.
Not today, maybe in the future,
Okay.
as one of the interviewers.
He has an amazing story. Amazing. I remember when he first started, he was selling hot dogs on the corner.
There you go.
And he had just came from Chicago. Him and his family. But where he is today, like, just to see his journey from starting from just really the bottom, like, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk to him and see if he wants to, come sometime in the next 5 weeks and talk. Yeah, thank you.
Do you know the number one thing that keeps us from telling our story? What do we talk? Embarrassment? Okay. What do we get talking about instead?
Our highs.
Our hot, maybe? What did everyone initially describe in their business? What did you describe?
What we do.
What we do. We get stuck on what we do, and we start doing the thing, because you're all amazing at your skill, craft, or trade. We focus on, like, if I just do more of the thing, like, I make the most amazing food on earth, everyone's gonna finally show up and realize that and cater for me. Nope, not how it works. You gotta go out and make connections with someone. Figure out like, you know, how do I get into this wedding venue? How do I get on your list? How do I get you to try some of my food? How do I cater for your anniversary party you're doing at your house, whatever. But if you're not out there building the relationships, doing it amazingly and being the best ever, doesn't make it the most successful ever. And that is it's soul crushing for us, particularly when we're the doers. Because this is our art, this is our creation, this is our baby. How come everyone else can't see it? They should be flocking to me because it's so amazing. Doesn't ever work that way. That's why your connections and your story are so much more powerful than even what you do. Entrepreneurship is transformational. Hopefully even today and what I've told you just a little bit, if you focus more on the why than the what, that's going to transform how you even see the world and how you listen to people and how you understand. You'll even start to understand what you consume yourself. Why do I choose this over that? And I want you to start looking at the things that you buy, not in terms of food for hunger, but I want you to look at food and be like, why did I choose this food today? What about this appealed to me? Does it remind me of my mom's cooking? That's awesome. But like so many things are anchored in stuff that's like, you gotta go 3 levels of why. Usually gotta go about 5. I feel like if we were doing a one-on-one session, I'd push you really hard on your story. Why? 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 On that last one, finally that piece pops out. And I'm like, that's it. You gotta move that right up front. Because that is ultimately what you're driving at. Ultimately what makes you go forward. And that's ultimately what's so powerful. So people are like, ooh, that's it. That connects. Okay? So we get to transform all sorts of stuff. The big corporations, by and large, pretty static. Is the iPhone 14 pretty cool? Probably. Is it all that different from the iPhone 10? Not really. Is it all that different from the iPhone 8? No, I don't know. It's probably not even all that different from the iPhone 1. There's just run some cooler apps. However, you get the opportunity to disrupt and transform all sorts of things. Every big opportunity that's out there right now was started by someone that's small and they're like, that's a space, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna transform it, I'm gonna make it better, I'm gonna make it amazing. Artificial intelligence right now, I'm gonna preach about this, but all of a sudden everyone is all hopping on ChatGPT and all the other sources that are out there. Like that may change how people do your work. You can have it literally write me web copy for a business coach. Now, I'll tell you, I wasn't super happy with where it started, but I tell you, it gave me an 80% thing to start with, and then I was like, oh, I know what I'm gonna change on there. All of a sudden, the things that used to stump me make life easy. Someone's gonna figure out how to take those technologies and break into places we haven't even thought about. And all of a sudden, they'll create a tool that you'll be like, man, I used to have to go hire someone to do that, and now I'm free to do it myself. That's not gonna steal jobs from someone else. That's gonna cause everyone to become more creative. They're not a job stealer, it's a tool. And the ability to see the world is like, it's a tool. Someone said money's a tool. These things are tools in order for us to help achieve the mission, the vision that we wanna achieve. So don't let anyone tell you that something's coming and it's gonna take away from our opportunity. There's always a problem that needs to be solved. And everything that's out there are tools for us to be able to transform the way we do stuff today. And if you're in there early and you're in there first and you're in there creatively and you're in there uniquely and you're carving out your niche and your space doing it in a way that no one else can do, that's cool. Okay? The at-risk person are people who are not prepared for the entrepreneurial age. Things are accelerating faster and faster and faster. There are so many unique and great opportunities. If we're always stuck in what was, and man, I wish I would have been as creative as that person, I could have been, and I thought about it, and back in 2020 I should have. It's not happening. It's 2023. You've got amazing power, you've got amazing ideas, and we gotta go forward with them to be successful. Talk a little bit about mindset. I think this group's already tracking on mindset, just by the way you're answering the questions, but it's a way of thinking. Entrepreneurship ultimately is a way of thinking. It's a way of acting, but it's a way of understanding the world, that things aren't just set and they go along the way they've always gone along. Here's the truth about how the human mind works. somewhere around less than 1% of the things we do are like conscious choices. Everything else is your subconscious. The brain is lazy. There's an amazing lady, Melania Palmer, who has a podcast called the Brainy Business Podcast, but she says that you gotta think about it like a driver on top of an elephant. The subconscious brain is the elephant. The elephant's just gonna go do its own thing. Our brain does its own thing on automatic. There's actually very few decisions we make consciously. And so if we could change the way we think about the world, suddenly we open up a few other opportunities that other people, they're just on autopilot. And it was like, cool, how can I make that autopilot steer a little bit my way? Because now you're seeing the world in terms of problems. Every problem you see is an opportunity to be solved. And if there's a problem out there that people are spending money on, that's an opportunity to start a business. So when you start seeing the world in terms of problems and opportunities to be solved versus that's just the way it is and this is how it's always been done, that's gonna open you up to lots of opportunities. Even in your field, everyone here has an idea of a direction they wanna go or a business maybe they wanna start. But if you got your head always on swivel, because maybe there's a pivot, maybe there's a change. Maybe I thought it was started with kids, but it turns out that it's actually adults, professional adults that need this. I don't know where your business is gonna take you, but the entrepreneurial mindset is always looking to solve that problem and what can I bring to the table in order to make that happen. I think we talked about most of this. But I like this one. We're gonna talk about failure is learning. Failure is not final unless we quit. As you said, failure is not final unless we quit. Failure is an opportunity to learn, do it better, do it more successfully. I'll give you an example. When I did my first, Milwaukee has Entrepreneurship Week. Now it's Milwaukee Tech Week, which I have an issue with because I feel like they sort of marginalized everyone who's not in tech, and they're like, nah, you know, entrepreneur again. Suddenly they create a hierarchy. Yeah, you're not cool enough. But leave that to the side. I put on an amazing event. I got 4 of probably the most dynamic entrepreneur, well-known people in Milwaukee who were going on the stage, led the panel, absolutely crushed the event. The feedback was amazing. I did it as a lead generating event to like, hey look, Brent's rolling in the right circles. He knows what he's talking about. He's amazing in business. I spent 100 hours prepping for that. I got 2 leads and no conversions. I put that down in the failure category. Except that what I learned was that I can probably do an event that's almost just as good, 80-90% as good, at about 10 or 15 hours worth of time. And then make sure I have a little bit better call to action in there as I go along. Hey, here's next steps to connect with me, some things that work. If you like what I said, create more paths to join in. So that failure just became a learning opportunity, so the next time I do it is better. Failure is only final if you quit.
Real quick.
Yes, sir.
Would you say failure is a part of like the process?
That's right. I mean, just think about learning to walk as a kid. Like, first time the kid gets up and falls over, everyone's gonna be like, that's it, I'm never walking again. No. Like, we tend to have more resilience when we're younger because there's so much we don't know. As we get older, then we're sort of like, that balance sort of evens out, and you're like, well, I'm no good at that. Well, okay. I wasn't all that good at public speaking before I started speaking. Right? And my first time out, you know, I'm fumbling and I'm looking at the notes and I'm like, oh, what does Professor Morris want me to talk about and blah, 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 you know. Okay. Like, I've done it more, I've got better, I figured out how to interact, I've watched others and learned. So I just think it's all about being on the curve. It's about progress, not perfection. Right? It's about, we're on the curve. So don't go out there and be worried about failing. Go out there and be worried about not doing. Because the only way we fail is if we quit. If we don't go out there and give it a try. And that goes to don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough. Launching your website. I was like, gotta have a big old website to do whatever that's. No, you don't. Here's what you need to go into business. You wanna know the minimum criteria you need to go into business? Everyone ready? You need to have something to sell, you need someone who wants to buy it. That's it. I became known when I first started doing BizStarts coaching as the guy who pushed people off the diving board. Because they're like, I need to write a business plan. I need to go do this, that, and the other thing. I was gonna get branded, whatever, and set up my website. I was like, whoa, what are you talking about? Are you telling me your neighbor was willing to hire you to cater that meal? Then why don't you cook the meal? Get it done. Start today. You know, don't wait. And then later on, sure, let's figure out how to get it better. Let's build out the menu. Let's have like 16 options instead of just one. Okay, but today if you have one option and someone's gonna pay you for that one option, you're in business. Go get started. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough, because that's sort of a form of just another way to make myself not get started. I'm never gonna be perfect in many things, probably in any things. But for sure in all the things that aren't my specialty, I'm not gonna get there. So don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough, because you're worth it, you've got amazing power, and the only thing that can hold you back is you. No one else can hold you down. And frankly, this is an expression I got from Denise Thomas, I love it. She said, those people who mind whatever you're doing when you're expressing your power, going your own way, doing your great thing, those people who mind, they don't matter. But guess what, those people who matter, they don't mind. So get yourself with the right people in that right environment, don't hold back. You see, when we sort of talk about risk management, some people won't do it because it's risky, I might fail. That might cost me some money. Okay. You know, doing that event cost me $100 worth of time. That's a lot of time. I could have been selling, I could have been trying to find some clients, I could have tried to find someone to pay me. I thought it was gonna work out, I took the risk. Now ultimately, I also figured out how to do some other things. I recorded that. I'm not breaking those chunks up, and I'm like, hey, look at this wisdom that Chad Johnson just dropped on everyone when I did my event. You know, hint, hint, dropped my own name there in the event, hanging out with Chad. So now all of a sudden, and Chad's okay with this, like, that all ties together. So I'm figuring out how to repurpose that now and make it useful for me. Whereas, you know, trust me, when I walked out of there and nothing converted, I was like, whew, I was not feeling super hot. So and then we learn and we adapt, and that's what makes it different. Okay. Where are we at on time?
That's a good time.
Probably on like slide 8 out of 36. Okay. Alright, I don't like the word exploit, but he wrote it, I didn't. When I get these slides, I'm getting rid of it. The process of creating value by bringing together a unique combination of resources to solve a problem is what I'm gonna say. Problems are opportunities. That's all we're doing. We're not exploiting an opportunity. Everyone knows what exploitation is, and I would argue, looking around the room respectfully, that you live in communities that have been exploited. So no one should be out there looking to exploit. That's called hustling. Not hustling in a good way, like working hard, but hustling is in conning people out of what they deserve. Okay? But the pursuit of the opportunity without regard to the resources we control. There's lots of stuff we control. I can't make more money appear in your bank account magically. I can't make you have more product or more people available to you. But we do have the things that are available to us. And if we're willing to say that's good enough, because I'm good enough and I'm worth it, then we go on and do it. Don't wait for perfect. Lots of people, and here's the deal, by the way, if I dropped $20,000, if I can give all of you like a $20,000 scholarship tomorrow, I almost guarantee most of that money would be wasted, because money makes us stupid, and that's not a comment on you. It's just, it's not a poverty mindset, it's a scarcity mindset. If you have to make more with less, you figure out how to get it done. If I give you $20,000, you're like, oh, that's it, $5,000 on a website, I gotta go get a new professional headshot for all my marketing that I'm gonna do, and all this other stuff, and then I'm out of money, and I'm like, shoot, I forgot to go get customers, right? Like, when our resources are constricted, we get more creative, we figure out how to get more done, and then we ultimately, in the long run, end up being more productive. And I say that, and I want you to believe that, because everyone, no matter where they're at, has limited resources. That number may look different to people, and those resources may look different, but we have to say, that's not what's gonna stop me. I'm gonna look at what I do have, the people I do know. You know, well, I don't have all the kitchen equipment that I would love to have. Well, what do you have? I don't have the fryer. Okay, then I guess you're not doing fried stuff. What can you do that's not fried, right? I don't have the packaging that I would love. Okay, so it's a brown box. But remember, you're not selling a box full of stuff. If you positioned it as an experience, then I'm not worried about it. You know, Amazon doesn't send me pretty boxes. No, right? Like, I don't buy it because Amazon's giving me a cool box. Now, there's some people that like the packaging's all their thing, that's part of your brand. That may be, but there's another area then that we'll have to go. But don't let any of that hold you back. You are good enough where you are. Get out there, share the world what's happening. So here's the process. Identifying opportunity. An opportunity is a what? Problem, thank you. Opportunity is a problem. So find the problems to solve. Okay? I don't know, develop the concept of the business model. This sounds like writing a business plan. I don't really like those terms. I'm gonna say develop the solution. How am I gonna solve the problem? Let's keep it simple. Anyone wanna throw out what problem you solve? Anyone, tell me what problem you solve in your business, or you think you're solving. Just throw it out.
Accessible access for artists to create.
Okay, find accessible access for artists to create. What's your solution?
Create a space.
Make a space that works, okay? What do you need? Determine the resources. What do you need for resources?
For me right now,
Yep, keep it simple.
I need the space,
Okay, gotta find a space. Do you need something in the space?
and it needs to be remodeled.
Okay. So we gotta so we gotta remodel, we got a space. Do you need supplies and equipment?
Yep.
Okay. So we're gonna figure out a minimum list of supplies and equipment. I bet you if I gave you a dream list and said, Daddy Warbucks is gonna show up and write the check and do whatever you want, your list would be like this long. But do you know what the list is this long that you can do? Do you have that in mind? Like, what's the very bare minimum that you can do in order to make it successful?
Right now, I just need to, clear out the space.
Okay.
It's my dad's old house, so I need to
Okay.
clear it out.
Yep,
Which will require some labor,
yep,
and once I got that, we're good.
there it is. That's it. Once we got that, we're good. There's a concept called the minimum viable product. They do it in tech all the time. And this is where it sort of bugs me that it's become Milwaukee Tech Week, because I'm like, all these skills, they apply to all of us. The minimum viable product is what is the bare minimum I need to do in order to deliver my brand promise and get that product or service out there? What is the bare minimum? Most of us get stuck with, you know, I want it to be perfect, I want it to be amazing, I want it to be the iPhone 14. Well, when the iPhone 1 came out, all it was doing, by the way, what problem did the iPhone solve? Anyone know?
Was it the operating system, the one?
One what? Don't keep going.
It was
What did it do?
they had one operating system, you didn't have to pick, I think that's the difference between iPhone and Android, right? That you could pick the operating system or
Okay.
Android.
The iPhone came before Android, so iPhone came out. What problem did it solve?
Mobility.
Mobility? Well, I still had a phone. I mean, I had an old flip phone for a long time. I'm a very slow adopter. I didn't get into the iPhone until they're already in like 7 or 8. Someone's like, time to retire the flip phone, Brent. Yes.
I think it's what she was saying was the operating system because, it's kind of proprietary.
Yep.
And everything that, you can't link anything to the, iPhone without, you can't link just any product to the iPhone, it has to be an iPhone product.
Yep.
So therefore, the security is there, and I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm techie.
That's fine.
So I'm proud this week. But yeah, I think that's what the iPhone did for us.
Okay. But I think the iPhone 1 was early. There wasn't a lot to tie in with it yet. I'm going more primal than that. What was the challenge? And this, maybe people don't remember.
Was it texting? Was it texting?
I can still text on my flip phone, but it wasn't very good.
Did it take
But I had the phone.
pictures?
What else does the iPhone do besides my flip phone? What else does it
FaceTime.
receive?
Computer.
Camera. Okay, now I can do a camera. It may even improve FaceTime. What else? What other devices does it change? Anyone ever listen to music?
iPod.
Okay, but even before the iPod, yeah, an MP3 player, had a camera, had a phone, had an MP3 player, had a calendar, and these were all separate devices that you used to have to carry. 6, 7, 8 things that you'd have to merge together. Now, yes, the operating system was essential to make it work, but the problem that it solved was I had to have like 8 different devices in order to do all that stuff. And Steve Jobs is like, how about we put it on one, and while we're at it, make it elegant, and while we're at it, make sure it ties together and integrates well, because like I've got, my Palm Pilot. Anyone know Palm Pilots? Are you still around, right? I got a Palm Pilot, and I gotta figure out how to link the email on there to my Outlook at the company, and they're like, go jump through hoops and see it on your head, and right? The iPhone ultimately solved all that because it brought it all together. However, the iPhone 14 is probably radically better than the iPhone 1 in that it probably merges now with more products more seamlessly. They've now brought that all up, but that wasn't needed in version 1. Version 1 was just, I need one device that's an MP3 player, camera, phone, calendar, reminder, all in one place. And that's why people flooded to it. And then that's why Android ultimately was like, ooh, we gotta figure out how to do that and make an open source version. That's cool, that was a follower. But that's what I want you to think about. What is the minimum that you need? Now, Apple standards are always higher because in their mind, their brand promise is, no, I'm not just gonna give you the minimum, but I'm gonna make it an amazing experience while you're at it. Okay, that's part of their brand promise that they're going on. But for all y'all, what is the minimum? If you're catering, what is the minimum menu that you need? Do you need 16 options? Or do you need like one that's amazing? And that's okay, I'm not gonna cater for the same person 5 meals in a row, but guess what? Most people don't cater all the time. They cater to one big event. So if you got your go-to and that's what you have today, and you only have like 3 chafing dishes, those are chafing dishes over there, then, you know, don't cater that needs 19, or go find out how to rent them instead of buy them. Maybe you don't have a space immediately available, and so we're gonna rent a space for a while. We're gonna figure out how to share with another company that has room, right? Commercial kitchens, that's a hard thing to find here in Milwaukee.
Yes.
Maybe there's a restaurant that'll partner with me. Maybe there's like, you gotta think outside the box. What is the minimum I need in order to get going? And then do that, right? Then you launch it. What do they say? What are the 2 conditions you need to launch your business? You need a what?
Supply customers.
You need a customer, yep, and you need product or service. That's all you need to launch your venture. Don't let all that, I gotta do a business plan, someone give me a 78-page checklist full of blah, 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 blah. There are good, don't get me wrong, there are good things in there. But don't let those stop you from starting your business. All you need to, what's that? Right? Oh, you gotta write this up, you gotta, yeah, okay. There are things you need. Sell food, you probably need to pass the health, you need to get the health license done, right? Probably ought to get insurance, probably ought to do an LLC, probably ought to. Hey, look, at the end of the day, I wanna figure out how to get into business. And sometimes, we're gonna do it in the wrong order. Am I gonna recommend we do it all in the wrong order? No, it would be great if we can all do it perfectly. But I tell you what, if I got a lawnmower and my neighbor's lawn is really tall, and they're ready, standing out there with $50 bills, so we mow my lawn, be like, hang on, I gotta register with the state. I gotta call my insurance agent, find out what happens if the blade breaks on the lawnmower. You know, and I'm not sure if Department of Professional Services says I need a license to do this. No, I'm gonna take $50 and mow the lawn. Right? Let's be real. So, like, and I am not encouraging anyone to break the law or violate it. I'm just saying, we put all sorts of nonsense in our way. All sorts of nonsense in our way. Look, if you really need here's what you need on your minimum webpage. How to contact you. Here's my email. Here's a contact me page. Here's a little bit about my product and service. It can just start with, I am a coach that wants to help businesses in Milwaukee. Maybe that's all I have to start. Okay. Now I've got something more built out, but that's not what I started with. And for a lot of people, I'm like, dude, the website, that's just a reason not to get started. Go get started. Because the people you're building relationships with, like, they didn't necessarily need to do your website. Now, pause on that point. Most of our buying decisions nowadays are made based on online research. So you can't go forever with no online presence. I'm just saying you don't have to start there. And it doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to cost $5,000. And let good enough be good enough and get into business. The only thing I want you to be 100% on, what's the only thing I want you to be 100% on? What do you think?
Your service.
Your business.
Your service and product. I'm still working on my why. I'm still working on my pitch. It's probably 80-90%. Yeah, would it be nice if it got there? I need your product or service to be as close to 100% as it can be. Whatever that looks like for you is different. You know, that doesn't mean if you're serving eggs that you have to be like, you know, the Bartolotta group, because they're going for a different vibe and a different feel. So it's whatever the setting is for you. But I need that to get close to 100%. Everything else, you know, try and get as good as you want. I teach people a lot of 80%. Right? It doesn't take you necessarily long to figure out how to get up to 80%. Right? Just think about, I'm gonna use sports analogies. No one doesn't like sports analogies, but when you first started to learn a sport, you can get all right with a little bit of practice. But if you want to get really good, you're working your butt off. So it doesn't take you long to figure out how to do something kind of okay. It takes you a really long time to get that last little piece. You're not in marketing. Don't worry worry about your marketing being perfect. You need a flyer in Canva. Lots of people do flyers in Canva. Is it as amazing as a graphic artist is gonna do it? Nope, never will be, because you're not a graphic artist. But that's okay. Does it have your core message? Is someone gonna show up to the concert that you're holding? Right, are artists gonna find out that you have a space available? Yep, does the job for today. Be good enough, and then keep going. All right, exit the venture, that's, you know, manage and grow, and exit, that's selling down the road. I don't think anyone's in that category, so I'm not even gonna worry about that today. Ask me if you want to. Okay. Entrepreneurship is a journey. We already talked about it. It's not linear. It bounces around. Opportunities show up. We don't get to control a lot of stuff. Not predictable. Riley sent me an email, was it on Monday? For this class. Now I teach for this, not this session, but I typically teach one at the end and do a couple of guest visits, and I'm kind of familiar with the material. I've been teaching at BizStart since 2017. So I'm familiar with the concepts that are on here. But Riley called me on Monday and said, can you come in and teach on Saturday? This is what I do. This is how I get paid. If I'm like, nope, you know, I only take bookings 4 weeks out, and you know, it's on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and you know, Friday nights, and you know, I could do that. Sometimes you gotta have boundaries, and you gotta have boundaries. But it wasn't predictable. It wasn't on my calendar. Things happen. You know, emergent just means that things are gonna change. I mentioned artificial intelligence because, you know, Bing, anyone ever use Bing anymore? Anyone know what Bing is? Competitor to Google? I mean, I'm only joking because Bing's like the punchline of search. However, Microsoft just integrated Bing with AI. You can now, their searches are now gonna be powered by AI. And if you haven't played with those tools, like, you know, schools are already banning them because it can write an 8th grade essay like that. It's hard to tell the difference. I will tell you though, it cannot write anything at the level of a professional, because it takes basically the least common denominator and sums it all together. And so it's like the generic information, it's like, boy, I wish you told me a little bit more so I could be great. However, that's a great starting place. It's like your website, by the way. You know, again, create for me a great contact page for a hairstylist. Text, pours out, awesome. I'm gonna change that, I'm gonna put it in my own language, some of my why, some of my purpose, done. What used to take people forever to like get it right, get the right words, do the right thing, yeah, you know, the AI already looked at like 5 million different beauticians' websites and figured out like, this is kind of what people tend to put on there. That stuff's gonna save your life, but you gotta be ready to change and embrace some changes that come along. Not every change. There's gonna be new apps, there's gonna be new people, there's gonna be new relationships, there's gonna be new ways to get stuff done. We gotta be nimble. We get the benefit of being nimble because we don't have all these like ancient systems from the 70s that if I change them, like the whole company's gonna break. Right? We don't have that problem. Our problem sometimes is that we're a little bit afraid to get out there and try anything. There's an expression, fail forward fast. If you haven't heard that expression, you need to adopt it one. Fail forward fast means I wanna get out there, I wanna try it. I wanna fail quickly because I learn when I fail. And I wanna fail forward. Every time I fail, I wanna get a little closer to my goal, okay? And then do it fast, I don't wanna find out if it doesn't work in a month. I wanna know tomorrow if it doesn't work. Right? So fail forward fast. Goes along with that minimum viable product. Let me try it, let me slim it down. I think this is great, I'm gonna launch it. Oops, didn't work. Cool, I'm gonna tweak it, I'm gonna add a little something. Next week, I'm gonna try something else. See if that works. But fail forward fast, keep going. Who relates to, can you read these words up here? I can read them if you can. Loneliness, this is the entrepreneurial experience. Stress, uncertainty, but also adaptation, discipline, self-reliance, change, freedom, learning. It's all these things. They all go together. That voice in your head, the one that's not supportive, you should give it a name and have conversations with it. A very good friend of mine, she calls her voice Tina. And sometimes when this person shares and she's like, yeah, I was thinking about she just wrote a book. She's amazing. She's like, I just wrote a book, but I'm not sure when I'm doing all my events if I should promote the book heavily. Her name's Lisa. But on the call, because she was on a group with a bunch of entrepreneurs supporting her, we were just like, Lisa, can you step over? I need to talk to Tina for a second. Because Tina's speaking now. Because you've been doing marketing for 25 years. You just poured 25 years of marketing experience into a book, broke it down in great detail, and created something that if you want to be in business for at least 5 years as an entrepreneur, you need to buy this book so that you don't fail. And Tina over there is being like, you don't know what you're talking about, you're not good enough, no one wants to listen. Tina, gone. Leave, go to your room, don't come out for the next rest of your life. Because we gotta get, so like, where's that stress, where's fear? How come fear's not up on here? Fear. Fear like blanked out, we can't even see it. Fear should be right here, it's written in yellow. So, all that stuff, it's always there. We have to balance it. So just know that that's true. You'll never get to the point that it's like, oh, I got it. Like, life's happy, I don't have stress. But you get all these things. You know, embrace these things. You get freedom. Get some responsibility. Discipline. Okay? Exhilaration. Those are good. You can probably write some of your own. But just know that you're never free from those nagging pieces. And so you gotta embrace the part. Why did you do it? That's why, Brent's opinion, I think purpose beats passion every day of the week. Because I believe that we're all put here for a purpose. And your power that's coming out here is part of the purpose that you were put on this earth. The trouble with passion is when it cools off, what's gonna keep me going? I've already invested my life savings, already, burned the bridge behind me on the jobs that I was like, nope, I'm out of here, I'm not doing that nonsense anymore. And the passion's down because I'm not getting the sales, I'm not getting the focus, I'm not getting the energy that I want. But my purpose, if this is my purpose, I believe right now my purpose is to make Milwaukee's neighborhoods thrive by getting businesses that are amazing in those neighborhoods. That's my purpose. And that's what I want to keep doing. Okay? I like this last quote here. The entrepreneur is an actor in a play where there's no script, because things are being created as you go. Key then is continuous learning. What are some ways that we all learn every day? What are some ways you learn right now?
Listen.
You listen, okay? More specifically, where are we right now?
Class environment.
You're in a class. Okay, you can go to class. How else can you learn? Podcast. Love.
YouTube University.
I'm about to say.
Love that. Right? All the streaming things. Podcast. So like, here's the deal. Like, and by the way, my recommendation: if you don't listen on your podcasts at least 1.5 or faster, the human mind can comprehend spoken words much faster than we can speak them. The power of the podcast, so you can consume a lot more content, positive content, pick the stuff, just like you gotta ditch some of your friends, you may have to ditch some of the content you're consuming too. Because if they're not giving you the messages that are gonna make you successful, find the ones that are. There's amazing, I happen to be doing a lot of podcasting, because if I'm in my car, I got a radio, but I only use it to play the podcast on the speakers now. I wanna listen to a podcast, something that's gonna advance me, something that'll learn my skill or craft, or something that'll help me get one of my pieces up to 80%. YouTube's great. Newsletters. So there's formal and informal learning. Most of our learning, particularly as adults, but I actually think of life, is informal. We watch someone else, we see someone else who's successful, we ask questions, we listen to them. But we gotta be willing to do that. If we're stuck in the doing, and we're not out building relationships, and go find other people who are in your space but more successful than you. They're not necessarily your competition, because you are unique and you've got a way that you're carving that out that's different than everyone else. And by the way, very few people go to the same restaurant every day of their life all the time. If you're a good customer at a restaurant, maybe you visit them 4 to 6 times a year, yes ma'am?
So what do you do, cause like for myself, for example,
Yep.
I will be 1,000,000% out there, no one else doing exactly what I'm doing, so how do I look for someone, cause I know there's other coaches and things
Yep.
like that as well, but
Yep.
they're not specifically looking at my particular niche, and that's something that I've been running into, where I'll see other people that are like similar, like business coaches, different
Yeah.
things like that I'll see, but what I run into is that they're not doing what I'm doing.
Tell me again your specific niche.
I'm chronic pain support for people of color and women.
Okay. How do people of color and women solve the problem of pain today?
Right now, it's a lot of medications.
Okay.
So there's not a lot of research information available. When you do go to the doctor, you come out with a stack of paperwork like this,
Yep.
and everyone else is telling you something different.
Yep. So there's a couple ways, and I'm calling you in a second. There's
Okay.
a couple ways that come to mind for me, and I'm open, and this is a great way, by the way, ask other people how to learn.
And that's why I asked.
Right? So number one, they don't have to do exactly what you do. We've already said that we're unique and the space we're in is unique. So, but you wanna figure out like kind. So like, what is the actual core, the essence of the thing you wanna find out? Is it, hey, how do you get in front of your target audience? I could ask anyone that question because there's some pieces I can learn. Like, I wanna get on speaking stages. You don't have to speak about coaching issues for me to learn from you how you get on speaking stages, for instance. It may be like, oh, you gotta do a speaker bio and you just gotta be bold and reach out to 100 people and you get on 5 stages. Okay, like I was only reaching out to 5, so I guess I better up my number. Whatever I learned there. The other piece is figuring out how people solve the problem. Because while you don't have competitors, there are alternatives. An alternative is any way someone is solving the problem that you identified. I don't like looking at competitors because like you said, you're unique in your space. Or maybe there aren't very many people focused on people of color and women, and that's your part of your unique niche. But are they still focusing on pain, or there's some things you can learn? You were gonna say something.
I just wanted to make sure I understood what you were asking. You were looking for people that, is in kind of the same line of business as you?
Correct.
Okay, and I just wanna say, y'all, I have done a lot in my lifetime, like a whole lot. I went to massage school. My niche was to, holistically help people not have pain through massage, and I also incorporated some CBD products. I don't do this all the time, y'all, but I've done a lot. So, just a recommendation, I would start there. I know that the hospitals, when they talk about holistic, I think it's called integrated with the hospitals now, versus, we looking for holistic, but we'll never find that Googling it or, looking for those types of services. So my recommendation is to start there with people that do natural holistic care. And you'll find other African and American women, and I know a couple people that I can recommend to you as well, that do, holistic care, herbs, aromatherapy, CBD.
Yeah, I'm actually a CBD also affiliate, so I do that. I also do aromatherapy as well too. So it's a lot of different areas that I do. But the thing is, as far as like, like I listen to podcasts, I like, I read the books and everything like that because I tend to go more towards the emotional side. I look at your complete lifestyle overall. And so that's the thing where, once again, makes my, position of what I'm doing unique. But oftentimes when I'm looking at all the information, and I put it because the elephant in the room is fine, we're here, it's very whitewashed. There's not a lot for people of color, it's not a lot for women that are actually going through. And like even for myself, my own particular story is I was on 15 medications on a daily basis, upwards of 30 pills a day. I was bedridden and told my son was gonna be my caretaker. And so I'm not supposed to be doing any of the things I'm doing right now, quote unquote, based off of what specialists were telling me, but of course I know better. So that's part of the story of, why I'm doing what I'm doing. But it's just really being able to go ahead and find others that could be, support wise. So like I do know like a lot of massage therapists, I do know a lot of people in those, respective areas. But just being able to kind of hone in on, okay, well where, because it can be like, I'm only one person. I can't be 15, I can't be in a million places.
And you may need to.
I like to also say that, even, venturing into vegan and
Yeah,
doing what
that's
people.
what I was gonna say. I wanna
because-
connect with her, because we've been like, we're like in the same areas, but never actually got to talk to each other, like those like things like that.
That's the
So
main
I think
issue,
one of the-
main issue is our diet.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna
I wanna
that's-
bring it back in, because I think this is a
Right.
cool conversation to continue on the break. I think generally, sometimes we gotta talk to a lot of different people, because no one does what we do. I tend to think that a lot of the business coaches also ignore communities that traditionally been marginalized. And like, I think if you look at where all of them work and live, none of them have a Milwaukee, address. It's Brookfield, it's Shorewood, it's
Yeah.
whatever, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna be in Milwaukee, work in Milwaukee, live in Milwaukee, be in Milwaukee, send my kids to MPS, start a church in Milwaukee. I'm gonna be about Milwaukee. So that's different, but there are still pieces I can connect and learn, and then I just gotta adapt and try and figure it out. Alright, I know Nathan's here, so I wanna make sure we save some time, but I also wanna keep going through a little more material. I don't want anyone to start a venture that's in the marginal and survival category. Survival category is in the mindset of, man, I really need this contract, I feel broke, I don't have much money, my service is really worth $25, but if you're offering me $5, I'll go ahead and do it. That doesn't last very long, that's not gonna work. I want you moving up the chain. There's one thing to remember, you're worth it, what you're delivering is worth it. Affordability is a bad word, I do not want you pitching your products as affordable. I want you always talking about the value you deliver. Let the customer decide how much money they're gonna take out of their pocket and pay you. Do not put work, cause as soon as you say affordable, you know, like, alright, Value City, what do you think of when you think of Value City? Cheap, thank you. Now, there are other connotations of value, and we're actually gonna talk about that later in the institute. But as soon as you start talking affordable, now I'm like, well, what am I not getting for this? Cause you told me affordable, now I'm thinking cheap, now I'm thinking I'm not getting top quality, whatever. Like, you're anchoring all this negativity around what you do. But we've already determined that you're worth it and you've got power. And so that's why I don't wanna hear that. So this is the commodity trap that we're gonna talk about. You get in this circle, there's no differentiation. This is why your why and your purpose is so powerful. Don't come replace your story about how culinary arts made an impact on you as an at-risk youth. That differentiates you from everyone else trying to get in there and do something. Okay, there's low barriers to entry. If you're just out there hawking wares, if I'm just another restaurant, I'm just another caterer, I'm just another beauty supply, I'm using the word just very pejoratively. That's another word I wanna throw. I don't want anyone to describe themselves as I'm a just whatever. Nope. You are a unique value creation of God. Don't just anything, okay? You end up with low prices and margins. The only way you can compete is a commodity is something that is relatively the same no matter where I buy it, and the only difference is how much I pay for it. Is that what you wanna be known for? I'm cheaper than the other guy? Cause guess what happens when you're cheaper than the other person? Someone else shows up later on, and they're cheaper than you. If that's your only value proposition is I'm cheaper, this is where you're at. Right? Intense competition, this goes around the big circle. But eventually you're out of business, so we don't wanna do that. I'm gonna tell you what's in some of your notes. These are examples. I wanna move ahead to right here, because this is how we create our opportunity, and this is how we stay out of the commodity trap. We're gonna start if there's a need, okay? This is the problem. You do have to go out and find if the customer's ready to buy. So there are some problems that seem like they'd be awesome to solve, but if people aren't spending any money to solve the problem, not your specific solution, because your solution's amazing, but if people aren't paying to solve the problem, it's more like a nuisance than a problem worth solving. And here's how you wanna go out and ask about your products and service. Not, hey, when I get my catering business started, will you hire me to do your next, birthday party or anniversary celebration? And everyone's like, oh yeah, of course, cause I like you and you're my neighbor and what, I'm not gonna tell you no, heck no. The question you should ask is, hey, when you've done birthday parties and anniversaries in the past, have you ever catered anyone? Oh no, I always cook it myself. Well, why is that? Right? Because some people will be like, it's such a hassle to do food and I don't wanna do all this blah, 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 blah. Like, okay, that's true, but then why don't you ever hire someone? Well, they don't cook the way I do, they can't do my stuff, I got grandma's recipe. Like, there's all sorts of stuff. If they're past behavior, they've never spent money to solve the problem, they're almost certainly never gonna spend money even on your solution. Even though your solution is more amazing and more powerful. So you gotta get on there. I'm not actually worried about how big is the market. I think if you're gonna scale up and go sell to some venture capital fund, worry about how big the market is. I need for you to know that there is a market and your product's amazing and you're gonna go own that market. I actually think niching down to getting small is where the power is. Because I'm gonna get small right to exactly the people who wanna buy from me. And I don't wanna talk to anyone else. Because you know why? Because if they mind, then they don't matter. But the people that matter to me, they don't mind that I'm focused on them. Right? Sometimes there's things to be at the right time. We've probably all seen an idea that comes along now and we're like, hey, wasn't there something like that back in 2014? Whatever happened to that thing? Sometimes we just have a great idea and it's the wrong time. that happens. But again, if it's a problem you see people spend money on to solve, that's a place where you go. And then we talked about competition, I don't like that word, alternatives, but is there a gap? You've identified a gap. You think the market's whitewashed right now, and there's not enough people serving people of color and women. That, you know, you don't need me to tell you, that's a valid experience for a lot of people. Right? There can be other gaps, they're not obviously all color and gender, and ethnicity, but there's a gap somewhere. And that's what I mean when I say niche down, you find that gap, you own that gap, you live in that gap. I've already told you a gap that I think I identified. I don't think there are coaches serving Milwaukee who are actually in Milwaukee and invested in Milwaukee. So here I am, because it's a place I wanna walk to, I wanna enjoy, I wanna appreciate it. How much time do I have left, Riley?
If you need to 11, that's fine.
Okay.
So 15 more.
We're gonna accelerate a little bit here to make sure we get the good stuff. Alright, this is it. Finding opportunities, you gotta identify the pain points. It's another way people describe the problem. What is the pain point? What is the thing? So when you're identifying the problem, I won't go with the pain maybe, let's stick with the pain for a second, literally pain, right?
Pain point is pain.
Pain point is pain. Why does it matter? Why does it matter you have an alternative solution? Great point.
So that way you're able to enjoy your life.
Able to enjoy your life. Why do you want to enjoy your life?
Because you're tired of sitting on the sidelines.
Tired of sitting on the sidelines. That's good. Why do you want to sit on the sidelines? What could you do instead of sitting on the sidelines?
You can be enjoying time with your family, your friends, exploring your passions.
Here we go. So to me, that just floats right up there to the top. Like, are you tired of pain keeping you from enjoying time with your family and exploring your passions and your purpose you created on this earth? You're like, heck yeah! And you might even be bold enough to be like, look, people of color and women, are you tired of these solutions coming to you that are all pitched towards white men? And you want to live like, and all of a sudden people are like, yep, boom. Now I get to solve the problem. Okay? Like, be bold. Like, if that's the space you're in, like, some people are like, man, I wish I could get a more diverse population doing whatever. There are things that you want to encourage diversity, and there are other areas that you are choosing to serve a population. That's the gap. That's the gap. And I'm not saying you're excluding people. And by the way, just because you niche down doesn't mean that I can't come to her and be like, look, I'm not reality check, not a person of color, not a woman. However, if I like what she's selling, I can still buy it. But that's just not her target market. That's not the market that is most likely to have the problem, to be resonating with the experience and being willing to connect. So never look at like, because I'm targeting here means that I'm closing the door on everyone else. Nope, not true. It just means that I think this is the most likely audience to absolutely understand what I'm selling, to get it, particularly for sharing lived experiences. Man, those are powerful. Because now we're creating an experience that other people, a connection that other people can't replicate. No one can move in on your space, on your lived experience, because that's your lived experience.
You're making people feel seen.
Right, you get all that you can bring to the table. And a lot of people build a following that goes way beyond where they started. But don't worry about that. Don't be afraid of niching down. Everyone's like, there's not enough customers. Well, really, how many customers do you actually need? Because if you could own 50% of a small pie, that's probably better than 1% of a large pie. And it's much cheaper to market to that small slice. Because they're your people. You know exactly where they are and how to reach them, because you're building community, you're building connections with that group. Rather than just like hoping, never ever tell me if I say who can buy your product, boy, if you say everybody, we got a lecture coming. You are not selling to everybody. You are selling to a specific group that loves what you do and the problem you're solving. Does that make sense? As you're looking for problems, check out some trends. Okay? Some of these trends, these are just a generic list. There are trends going on all the time that may impact how you do stuff. Right? In pain management, there may be a movement away from more of the traditional drug pharmacology to more like apothecary. Or there may be more acupuncture, or there may be more I don't know what the trends are. TikTok does, but I don't. Right? But you gotta know what's going on, because that's where you gotta be agile. You gotta be willing to shift and focus. Or Maybe you're the counterpoint. Hey, look, the trend is starting to go over here. Let me tell you about my experience. Like, you let the whole crowd go over there and keep suffering and pain, but I'm gonna tell you that this is the route, actually, to freedom, and I'm gonna use it to differentiate myself. But no matter what, you gotta know where the trend is. Because remember, the elephant is stampeding and they're following the herd. Your conscious brain, you want the conscious brain to kick in and for someone to go, wait, see, why am I going that way? The promised land's over here, I need to go this way. I mean, they got lots of ideas here that are strong. So I encourage you to read those. We're just not gonna talk about that here. I don't like reading slides. That's bad coaching. Let's talk about coffee. I love selling coffee. What do you buy when you go to Starbucks? Anyone know what you buy? Any coffee shop. Experience. Man, you just like jump into the punchline all the time. Right? No one goes to Starbucks to buy a coffee. You're going for the experience. You're going for something else. Almost every time when you're selling a product, physical product, we'll talk about this more probably in the last class. A physical product, you're actually selling the experience. When you're selling a service, you've actually got to tie it back to a physical experience. Because you don't know, me as a coach, you don't know if I'm any good until you experience me. So when I first walk in, how am I going to convey it? Then that all depends on your personal style. But like, if I came in and I hadn't shaved today and hadn't done my hair and I'm wearing my dirty shirt because I ate pizza yesterday and was sloppy and spilled all over it, you don't know anything about how good of a coach I am. But our minds automatically make a judgment. Dude doesn't know what he's talking about. You haven't heard him speak, right? So, physical products, we have to tie to experiences. That's why when they market cars, no one gives you the whole spec sheet of the car and how fast it can go from 0 to whatever. It's always like, people are going out on the town and having a nice life and wearing a Rolex watch and, ended up parking on top of a mountain with a view of the whole city or whatever. Like, they're selling you an experience with the car. It's the same reason you're gonna buy from athletes. Like, what do you want? Like, I don't know, I kinda wanna look a little bit like LeBron James. I think that'd be pretty sweet. Like, can I play basketball like him? Nope. But like, maybe if I wear his shoes, all of a sudden, like, I channel a little bit, I don't know. That's why those things happen. Remember that for your own stuff. That's why I don't want you getting into what you sell, because that's not what you sell, if that makes any sense. The thing that you sell is not what you sell. You're selling that why, you're selling that solution to a problem, you're selling that purpose, you're selling that vision, you're selling that connection. If you latched into those, that's where your power is going to come out. Features from benefits. Features, this is where people start listing out. It's the size of the box. It's the spec sheet. When you go on Amazon, you scroll all the way down to the bottom. It's the spec sheet, how much it weighs, how big it is, number of colors it comes in, whatever. We have a tendency to be like, look, here's all the things I can do. I can offer you because I know in the details. Versus the benefits. The benefits are all the ways I solve your problem. Or all the ways your problem is better once we're done. If you're not getting the theme, everything you do in your business is around the problem that you're solving. Because your customers experience that problem, the customers want to feel the benefits from having that problem taken care of. And no one cares, they might care, but not necessarily. Like, if I'm really struggling with pain, I'm not sure I care if it's necessarily drugs or acupuncture or quality of life or whatever. I want the pain to go away. That's actually what I want solved. Now, when you pitch it, you may talk about the benefits of like the challenges. When you do the drugs, you got the residual, you got the drug hangover, you got money that you got to pay out, right? My benefits of my program are as follows, right? And it's positioning a little bit different. But the features of, and people do this all the time, it's a 12-week something, and in week 1 we're gonna do this, and blah, 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 blah. It's like, those are the features. Like, I don't wanna hear about that. I do wanna know the benefits of the outcome. Usually, customers don't actually care how you get to the end story. Most of them don't. But man, if you tell them like what life will be like when they reach the end state, and after they've consumed your product or service, that's what they care about. Because they got a problem they wanna solve, they're making an emotional connection, and they're willing to spend money to solve the problem. So just stay in that problem zone. Stay away from the what's, stay away from the features, get on the benefits. You know, a great example. Dessert bar, indulgent experiences, right? I like the word indulgent there because that's kind of, there's a dessert restaurant where my wife went to school called Indulge. And you knew what you were going there, like you weren't going there to go get a diet piece of anything. Because the name of the place was Indulge. You were getting like an amazing chocolate like creation that was, I could never do at home, okay? This is it, we're selling experiences. So repackage whatever you say, whenever you introduce yourself, you can figure that out. I'm gonna get to that page. I don't like what's a good concept. In my business, it is not my job to tell you whether your business is good or not. Because I don't have your lived experience, I may not be your target market. My job is to ask you tough questions that you have to be able to answer, because your customers are gonna demand that you can answer them. So, these are interesting to separate yourself, but I'm actually not so worried about it. I don't think it needs to be new and different. The problem of pain has been around since the beginning of time when the first person twisted their ankle. Okay? But the solutions need to be authentic. If you make a connection, you don't have to be new and different. You just have to pass the know, like, trust model. And so I'm actually okay entering crowded spaces. I think entering a restaurant is a crowded space. Milwaukee's got lots of restaurants. Doesn't mean you can't come in and go there, because what you're doing is unique and amazing, and you're gonna make connections and are gonna sell because people know, like, and trust you. Not necessarily, and maybe it is new and unique, but oftentimes usually they're not. What it is that you have carved out a space and a way and a connection that is awesome. You know, same thing, easy to copy. Well, technically anyone can cook. Maybe some are better than others. So I'm not bought in here. Attractive profit margins, that means you make a lot of money. There's ways that we can make your business work. And I would actually say that these are faulty beliefs that get in the way. So don't let those stop you. I'll have a debate with Dr. Morris later. We'll see who wins. So there's an opportunity that we identify, but it's just showing you here that it adapts differently into the business concept. Okay, so because we may not solve the entirety of the problem, we may just solve one part of the problem, and that's okay. We may solve the missing part that's not out there, not being addressed yet. All right, I think we're wrapping up here. Muhammad Yunus says this. He started micro-lending around the world. And when we're talking about micro-lending, they were lending like $2 to almost exclusively women. In fact, they only lent to women because men sucked at repaying their loans, but women in these third world, it's true. They would give the money to men and they go waste it. So they invested in women in generally historically poorer countries around the world, because women tended to do most of the manual labor, and by funding them a small amount of money, suddenly they could figure out either how to automate, how to be able to get, 5 goats instead of 1 goat, and actually be able to start getting some scale. I mean, literally, that's the stuff they were funding. Be able to get someone, extra equipment, so now when they were weaving, they could produce more rather than less, and they started going. But he's amazing. He says, the poor themselves can create a poverty-free world. All we have to do is free them from chains that we put around them. That's why he started the micro-lending.
Wow.
I'm gonna guess that everyone in this room has felt some type of chain placed on them by society somewhere along the lines. You may still have them placed on you, and that's why I'm gonna reiterate again. You're good enough, you're worthy, you're powerful, and just remember, if someone gets all upset, if they mind, they don't matter, right? But if they matter to you, and you're hidden with them, they're not gonna mind. That's all I got today, thank you. I'm gonna make one more plug, real quick. I'm just gonna leave this QR code up here. I do have to go get my daughter and take her to her soccer game, but I have a goal this year. So I talked to one other lady who dropped off a flyer to me, and I said, never hand someone a piece of information without a call to action. Call to action is like, what do I want you to do with it? Don't assume. The elephant is marching off one direction. Don't